Hey all there, virtual rafters! Hope you're having a fabulous day, and welcome to a little guide on how to do some big boats in the game of Raft. We're going to use creative mode here to keep this moving right along with free crafting, and I'm using several mods here, including one called No Pillars, which gets rid of that pesky building requirement. But it's not so much as necessary with the recent addition of the horizontal pillars from the Chapter 3 update. If you haven't checked these out yet, they're amazing! There was plenty of bonus decorations in that patch as well, and if you want more item previews, there's a video linked above in the corner about the final chapter update. And now on to this sketched out tutorial on shipbuilding. The intended idea is to go with a little bit of a yacht look. Not exactly Vazigaten, but something along those lines by first laying out a base for the hull in the general shape of those little sticker tabs that you use to mark signature lines on contracts or important places in your textbook. I've gone 4 foundations wide and narrowing off using 2 triangle foundations at the bow of the boat. This could be however scaled up to a large size if you wanted to. The neat thing about Raft and its building assets is that some pieces shapeshift whenever hovered over different surfaces. To do most of this ship's hull, we'll need the basic diagonal roof piece, and it will morph to shape into the spots to fill in all the gaps. We start by lining the sides of the boat flush with these diagonal pieces, and then along the front, interlacing a series of the shifted triangles to form up a base. By the time we're done filling in all the boards in this pattern, we get a basic bow shape started. To start flattening out the sides of the ship, we can use a combination of walls or window options in the half size and hammer those in above the diagonal roof pieces to make up the second portion of the hull's base. This sets us up for a nice look in putting in the foundation above. If you are also using Creative to do your project, there's this really nifty way of doing this without having to run around to build in first person. Using the N key backs us out to the no-clip camera mode, in which we can move around freely while still being able to right-click through the building menu, but now able to craft from a convenient perspective. But at some point, it's still useful to install a few staircases to get around the final product. After that, we install a layer of foundation to create the ship's main deck. It's also not a bad time to install engines if those are going to be necessary. Each paddle takes up 3 foundation spaces to remove by axe. Lining them all up right next to each other allows them to be easily connected together with pipes. This build leaves adequate space for lots of tanks and refiners to power it all. To get this front half done and make sure that we have a fully powered raft, the first 4 engines go into this starter section, with the other 2 engines being saved for the rear of the ship. I'm doing this divided into bow and stern sections separately to create the base. Then I'll get to the decorative passenger decks on the upper half of the project. The second cabin layer on this example is a combination of walls and windows with at least 1 door to let us out onto the deck. Then half walls to line the front of the bow. The front of this cabin is tapered out slightly by stretching the wall pieces with a window across for a diagonal doorway with a small awning over the top. Once the 4 engines are enclosed all the way around, we'll move on to part 2. Now onto the stern. Continuing with the same design as the front to add on to the rest of the length of the ship. When you think that you've created an adequate room for all of the equipment that needs to be on the water access level, think anchor, water purifier, or the paint drum, and also maybe biofuel tanks or refiners. But these could also be installed on the floor above and routed by pipe if refilling would be more convenient from that level. To do this example design, it flares out using triangle foundations and walls to shape the housing for the last 2 engines. The diagonal roof pieces connect to the triangle foundations at a base level, and then an inverted triangle joins the 2 half walls. There are more diagonal roof pieces and triangle wood bits that are used to fill in the wells for these large water wheels. Finish off the back with a few extra foundations to create a landing for you to access your ship. There's lots of latitude here to change up the design for stairs that work best for you. Half walls stretch to the back of the wells of the water paddles, and it starts to shape the back of the ship, widening it to have a larger deck at the top. A round of diagonal roof pieces to go around the rear of the base now. This will allow to put in more stairs and get this topped off with a layer of foundations to create a large area left over to do part 3. Here's where we get into the housing and navigation part of the ship, and it's really up to your creativity where you want to go here. You could even completely change the style and the theme of what the boat looks like at this point. It could be shaped up into many different types of ship replicas. But I wanted this yacht to have some sort of outside staircases and to put in some tiered layers and a ton of windows. The next floor starts with more diagonal roof pieces to continue shaping from the base half of the project, and it extends halfway into the yacht, further enlarging the size of the deck above. I used more half windows and walls stacked on top. Crafting in Raft often feels like a fun puzzle with shapes. Fitting assets together sometimes is that way, particularly when making the roof designs for your structures. Basically, we're doing a roof right now, but just upside down, so it might take trying a few of the corner pieces or its inverted counterpart to get the job done. The front of the upper cabins keeps a similar design as the main cabin below, but going up every floor and pushing it back every level that it goes upward, leaving more deck space to plant trees and crops. Half walls could be used to line the decks, but I've opted to go for railings in a style choice. When you've decided on the layout you want, you just add in more stairs and more foundations and then even more floors until you're happy with what you see. I'll just let a little build montage run here while I finish this up, and then we'll get to some fun decorating with the new items from Chapter 3. Oh, okay, but first a layer of paint on this exterior. I'm just finishing off the roof portion back here for the complete yacht look, and this is what I ended up getting by the end. For the height this build reaches, one could probably add a few extra 4 to 6 foundation links and it wouldn't start looking like a battleship yet. I made this boat a little stubby so that it would be steerable in the case that I copy this over to story mode using the blueprint mod, which is available with all the other mods I used on this project over at raftmodding.com. I have a video on how to install those and some other cool options if you'd like, linked above. I'm using as many planters as possible to make for a more beautified yacht atmosphere. Luckily, Chapter 3 gave us an upgraded crop plot set with a lovely texture. Blueprints to craft these can be obtained from the trader stations that will spawn on large islands. This set includes this small crop plot version, which will also shapeshift into a lovely window box planter and now holds 4 flowers instead of 3. Putting up a few trees and crops on the deck are nice for decoration, but this thing is pretty massive. There's adequate square footage for full production farming underneath the main decks. For example, I filled out a floor above the engine room with a workshop, farm, and even a leisure space for making smoothies with the new juicer that we got in the update. We got some bees, careful of those. An irrigation system can be added as well with the electric purifier or 2 in the engine room. The water can now be piped through a hole in the floor and into a tank above to be redistributed to sprinklers. I don't think anyone on this cruiser is going hungry with the amount of food that it can produce. This deck also managed to squeeze in a ton of storage for dropping trash from collection nets with recyclers to process it, in addition to a couple of the new massive electric furnaces for getting more ore into useful bars. Not even cramped for space. And there's still another empty floor for cargo Trustworthy and I can go collect, because we're gonna need a lot of cabinets for all this food. The upper passenger luxury living area includes a rather large kitchen and community space with outdoor patio area. There's a little grass field to play in to keep the animals happy and use that fancy new electric barbecue that super conveniently cooks 6 pieces of meat or fish fillets at a time. And if you have a large multiplayer crew, this yacht should still have plenty of production space, and it has crew cabins. The very top floor is mostly just for decoration, but there are enough beds for sleeping rafters between 4 small rooms and 1 large suite for the captain's cabin. Double canopy bed, plenty of space with windows everywhere for a nice view, and of course, its own private deck. I'll do some more video touring of the yacht in the outro, and it's time to get back to building something else, so thank you for stopping by, and if you're looking for more creative ideas on Raft, please give the playlist a check out. Take care, y'all, and bye-bye!